Alright guys, welcome back to The Prepared Father. I'm Dylan, and today we are going to be doing a little review of this right here. Not this, but just this. But before we do that, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that like, and drop me a comment down below. Tell me what optic you're currently running, or if you're rocking good old iron sights. I read absolutely every comment and probably reply to all of them. And it actually helps me figure out what you guys really want to see. Also, a quick shout out to all our channel sponsors. We got AceTac, who makes the absolutely best plate carriers you can absolutely afford. Weekend Gunner, they make the best and comfiest clothing out there. And so comfy, I probably wear it longer than I should, but it is what it is. And Deltaco Munitions, they provided all the ammo, not at zero charge, because that's not how businesses work. They are Michigan's largest and most premier ammo manufacturer. Now, I can't say anything about discounts, but somewhere out in the ether is TPF5. Use that somewhere, wherever those words would go, use them. Alright, so I'll preface this by saying I've shot a lot of different rifles over my time and a lot of different optics. I've seen kind of how the glass game has changed over the years. It used to be pretty simple. You spent top dollar as much as you can afford and something that's worth trusting your life on, or you got stuck with a budget optic that made you question your life choices. But lately, their middle ground has really been closing. Budget optics really aren't magically as good as razors or, Night Force. But the gap isn't as wide as it used to be. The Firefield Rapidstrike 1 to 10 is a perfect example. It sits right at about $200 MSRP. It says $199.97, which is basically just a psychological trick that is saying, don't worry, you didn't just spend $200, you just saved 3 cents, duh. But here's what you actually get for the money. The usual manual, lens cloth, Firefield sticker, a little tool to help you with the turrets. But then you get some extras. You get a front and rear flip cap, you get a kill flash, a throw lever, that screws into the magnification lens. Oh no, this side. That screws into the magnification lens, and a 30mm scout mount. So you really it's one of those just add rifle type of situations. So no excuses for leaving this thing sitting in a box. Here I have it mounted up on my Geissele 14.5 pin and weld. Review on this whole rifle coming soon. Now, is this mount that was included bomb proof like an ADM or a Badger Condition 1? No, it's not. But let's be honest, it mounted fine. It held, and honestly, for a $200 optic, it doesn't need to be a tank. Think of it like a daily driver car. You don't need a Lambo or a F-150 to get groceries. You just need something that starts every time. Now, this is a second focal plane optic. Quick refresher, first focal plane means reticle zooms with the image, and a second focal plane means it stays the same size no matter what. So translation, your subtensions in BDC are only truly accurate at max zoom. In this case, 10x. Not a deal breaker on an LPVO that's mostly for 0 to 400 yards, but something you should probably know going in. I set mine up using pretty much point blank range 0 with 55 grain 223 running about 2700 FPS out of a 14.5. And basically I zeroed at 36 yards, which gives me combat effective hits inside like an 8-inch circle, all the way out to like 300 or so yards without ever touching the BDC. At 100 yards, I'm a little high, like 2 or 3 inches, but I hit my second zero again at 250. Beyond that, I'll just record what part of the reticle matches my impact at 400 yards and call it a day. And look, for a budget optic, the turrets kind of impressed me. They're half MOA clicks, not quarter, but they're tactile, audible, and even lockable. I tried to do a darkroom test with just like dialing random numbers and then feeling my way back to 0. And it actually worked pretty well. I wasn't expecting that on a $200 scope, but, here we are. As far as illumination and battery life goes, it's not like red dot bright. You're not really going to be able to find an LPVO that's red dot bright at any reasonable price range. But it is good enough for like most lighting conditions, maybe not like the most harsh, rugged lighting conditions, like, 4 a.m., like as dusk is coming up, or sun shooting right into this thing. You got to be honest with yourself. As far as red dot capabilities, with an LPVO, I think this is going to be absolutely just fine. Battery life. Battery life is my real biggest bugaboo with LPVOs in general, and I don't even know. I've never shot like a night force long enough to be able to judge how long battery life is on it. But I can say that for anything budget, from a Sig Tango MSR or an Arkin or this, I've never had one or seen one that has like really capable battery life. So if I could be blunt about it, it is absolutely horrendous. All right, you'll be swapping batteries more often than you swap socks on a camping trip. So just accept that and move on. All right. So practical use and range time, I didn't baby this optic. You know what I mean? Like, I really went in with the idea that I wanted to, if I'm gonna do a review on a product that I don't have, I've got 10,000 rounds, regularly, like yearly or so, with like red dots, magnifier, stuff like that. So I don't have as much time with an LPVO. So I really went in with it thinking, okay, how am I going to do this thing justice? And so I really didn't baby it, and I put it through its paces. I didn't torture test it. I didn't smash it. I didn't drag it behind a car. You know what I mean? Because, think about who this optic is for. Like, if you're dragging this thing behind a car or putting it through that kind of conditions, you should have probably changed something along the way. I threw it in the truck. I carried it slung. I shot, a few hundred rounds through it, mostly 5.56, 223 from Deltaco, which, like always, runs absolutely perfectly. The magnification ring right here started out a bit stiff, but I definitely was able to kind of smooth it out over time, and especially when you have a throw lever that is included in the price and the package when you first buy it. You get to work around that initial stiffness, and it definitely smoothed out with the use. Here's my other thing that I hate about LPVOs is the eye relief. It's better than like a, what would you call it, like a Triticon, what do you call those things? Why am I sucking? Like an ACOG. It's definitely better than an ACOG, but it's not red dot capability, which if you're using a fighting rifle between 0 and 400 yards, you definitely want quicker acquisition. Turn the illumination on, baby. So eye relief is just under 4 inches, or at least that's what they say. And I swear to God, I have had 0 issues with the eye box. For the money, the image really was bright. 1x felt usable, and while there is a little bit of edge distortion, very, very, very minimal, but there is some. It wasn't distracting. Most importantly, after a few hundred rounds, the optic held 0. All right, like that's kind of going to be your most important bugaboo when you're looking at anything you're going to mount on a serious rifle like this. I find that most of my favorite budget stuff isn't like some shockingly amazing thing, but it's good enough to where you're like, all right, no drama. It doesn't feel like you're kind of going back and forth in your head of like, okay, did I just waste $200? Because even for me, or like the average father or prepared citizen, $200 isn't fucking nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna want you're gonna want something that you can use for $200. All right, who is this optic for? For me, I think that it's a shooter just getting into LPVOs who wants to see if they like the concept without like selling a kidney or saving up for 3 months or selling other rifles or handguns or something to pay for like a razor or like a AceTac or something like that. Number 2 is the guy with 12 rifles already in the safe. You have all the cool shit, all the bells and whistles, all the wing bang booms and zippity doodas. You got all that shit. 3 of them are still naked with no optics or no iron sights, or they don't have anything where you're like, okay, well, if I'm going to arm 12 fucking civilians, what would I do with, these 3? All right, so that is where a functional $200 optic is better than a rifle you literally can't even aim. And number three, so you had the person that's just getting into LPVOs, and then there's a more serious role of someone who is getting into the role of being a marksman. You want to learn how to take shots out to 400, 500, 600 yards, effectively, quietly, and without breaking visibility. I think this is a great training optic. You know what I mean? It gives you the opportunity to train the fundamentals of marksmanship at distance without breaking the bank, and still providing you the really cool features like the ability to adjust at the clicks, the changeable tactile knobs here. Fantastic. So I'm not saying that this optic is for like a hard duty use. I'm not saying if you're on your department SWAT team, or if you are building a fire team with a group of prepared citizens. I'm not saying it shouldn't be, but why buy once cry once at that level. When it's something serious, make that choice. Get a razor, get a credo, a voodoo, something like that. All right, guys, so that is my review of the Firefield Rapidstrike 1 to 10. Let me know down in the comments, would you run something like this? Would you consider something like this for training purposes? If you're on a budget, how much would you spend on an LPVO? And again, subscribe, hit that like button. That makes me want to keep doing it, to be honest. And YouTube hates small channels, and they'll banish me to small channel hell. If you can, check out our collaborators and our partners with this channel: AceTac, Weekend Gunner, and the best goddamn ammunition this side of the Mississippi, Delta Munitions. I'll see you in the next one.